Alright, hello. So this is going to be a Windwalker tutorial. So look, you might see this, this on my screen. This is because this is fucking important. You need to sim yourself. That is going to be the mathematical answer to most of your questions, okay? This is more important than anything else I'm going to tell you today, okay? I'm going to try and cover the basics of the guide and kind of show you how to play if you've never played before. We're going to get into that in just a minute, but I want to really show you guys how to sim because that is so incredibly important that it just answers almost every question, okay? It's really important. So you're going to need shit, I think it's an add-on or a weak aura. I'll post it somewhere, but you type /simc and you get this. Oh, okay. Well, you don't type, but you get this. You press Control C. Now it's copied. You got that. That's all your character information right there. All your talents, everything. Okay. Then you go to this website called raidbots.com. Okay. It's going to look like this. The majority of your questions are going to be answered right here in Top Gear. You're going to click on that and paste it right there. Okay? See how easy this is so far? It's nothing. It is nothing. See, this has everything that's on my character. It's got all these items that are not even equipped. They're in my bag. Okay? Let's say, shit, my transmitter only goes up to 606. What would it be like if I had a 619 one? Very easy. Look. Type it in right there. Oh, it's 571. Put level. Let's make it 619. Now it's 619. Boom. I have a 619 treacherous transmitter in my bag now. That was it. That's easy. That's easy. Now it's automatically selected too. Let's see. I want to compare that to this Fang I have. I don't even know what that is. You know, I just click it. That's it. I got all these options for enchants. If I want to sim like, oh man, hey, what about disenchant? Authority of radiant power. Maybe I want to sim that. I don't want to do that right now because I know it's not better. But try that. You know, you can test. This is for testing. This answers the question. Oh, hey, is this enchant better? It tells you right here. This is going to tell you the answer to that. Okay, that is what this is. It's going to tell you. Oh, what gems should I use? This is going to tell you what gems to use. It's it's going to tell you. It's just going to tell you what to do, and you just do it. It's that simple. Okay? You get down here to talents, all right? So right now, I want to do single target, right? So let's see. This is my current single target setup. This is what sims the best for me. It may be stat dependent on your gear. It may be very slightly different depending on what gear you have, okay? That's what that means. So I would advise you to sim it. But this is not the build that's on peak. The build that's on peak is this. Yeah, right there. This is the build on peak. This is a new build. This one right here that I'm currently using is like I guess a new build that somebody simmed the other day, and it's just not on peak. I'll go more into why you might want to use that over the other one in a second. But the short answer is it sims better in a perfect vacuum scenario. That's what a sim is. It's a perfect vacuum scenario, okay? And that's important to remember that. So right here, just for this video purposes, we're going to do this as a target dummy sim. But normally you're going to leave it on patchwork for single target. There's very few scenarios you'll ever want to touch this. Very, very few. In general, for gearing, a 5-minute sim is recommended. But yes, there are fights that are 2 minutes, or there are fights that are 10 minutes. It happens. If you're looking to sim for a specific fight, you know, go ahead and try to fine-tune these details as best you can. But in general, it is a 5-minute sim is good enough to go off of. That's getting into more advanced stuff to try to tailor a sim to a fight. And for fight style, like I said, patchwork, target dummy, and dungeon slice are going to be the main 3 you'll ever touch. This doesn't matter. We don't have execute. Windwalker doesn't have execute. You don't need this. It's trash. You know, maybe if you're a warrior or some shit. I don't even know. I've never even seen this. It's new. So I don't care about that. Hectic add cleave. This is super incredibly outdated. I don't think we have an APL for this. I don't know. It just, you don't care about that. Light movement, you don't care. Heavy movement, you don't care. Casting patchwork, you don't care. Cleave add is the only one I would ever even remotely try to care about. And even that is a pretty big stretch. Generally, you don't care about that either. It's these top three. There's a more advanced one for Mythic Plus if you really want to get into the weeds. I'm not going to go over that because I'm not a minigame enjoyer. Fuck that. But I'll try and tell you about it right now. It's called Dungeon Route. It uses the advanced sim, and what it lets you do is import a route from MDT, so you can do an entire dungeon route, and you just can sim the entire dungeon specifically to that dungeon and those pulls to see what would be best for that, which is great if you're in a coordinated group, you're trying to push your key, or you're trying to do MDI shit. Okay, it's cool, it's just not for me. I don't care about that. That's not my thing. Does not interact with me at all. I don't care. Again, we're gonna go target dummy just because I'm showing you hitting the target dummy, and this will kind of play into stuff later. So for a target dummy, that's gonna automatically, it's gonna make sure the dummy, the boss health never drops below 100, so you're not going to be using Touch of Death in the sim, because we're not going to be using Touch of Death on the dummy. It's going to disable all the raid buffs, all the consumables, so, because I'm not going to waste consumables hitting the target dummy. I don't know why you would. No point. I don't remember if it disables karma, because obviously we're not taking damage on a target dummy to deal damage with karma. But if it doesn't, I don't remember because I haven't done the target dummy sim in a minute. We'll find out in just a second. Well, we won't find out. We have to go in quick sim, but that's fine. It should. If it doesn't, it should. Whereas if you're doing patchwork, it's going to have all your raid buffs and consumables active. So we're going to do target dummy. We're going to hit find top gear. All this shit, you don't care about this. This does not matter. In 99% of situations, just ignore it. It does not matter. It's useless at the bottom there. So it's going to do this. It's going to wait. I kind of just got to wait. Thankfully, I have a premium account access through my guild. So I don't have to wait through a queue, but you might have to wait through a queue, and that's perfectly okay. I know it might be a little bit annoying, but like I said, this is going to be the answer to the majority of your questions. You don't have to wait for anybody else to answer you. You just do it right here, and the computer will tell you. All right. So remember, we simmed 2 talent combinations, and we also simmed adding a 619 transmitter as well as that Fang. So it tells me the 619 transmitter is going to be better than my 606 transmitter, okay? That's no surprise here. Obviously, the same item at a higher item level is just going to be better, clearly. And it also shows the Fang. The Fang's not particularly good, so it doesn't really matter. We're not worried about that. It was just there to show it. So, let's see. This build sims higher. And that's the build that's not on peak. The build that is on peak is this one right here, single target 2. And again, I'll get into that in a minute. But just proof of concept, you can sim your talent combinations. It's going to be there. And again, this is a target dummy sim, so numbers are a lot lower than if you're doing a patchwork sim where you have raid buffs. So right here, it's 890. We'll keep that in mind for later. It's not really important now. So, well, we'll touch on that now. So, what that number means, what the sim does is you have about 10,000 iterations. Okay, they might have changed it. Smart sim. This is not very super relevant. But what the sim does is it does how many iterations are ran. So it's 11,000. It's almost 12,000. Okay. So that's how many different times this sim was ran in this fight for 5 minutes on the target dummy. So these numbers are averages of that. So this isn't like on its best run ever, it had 892, and on its worst run ever, it had 871. You know, this exact same setup probably had a 830 run or something, and this exact setup probably also had a 920 run. You know, it's just averaged out to 892. That's because it does so many iterations, whereas when I go in game and I hit the dummy, it's only going to do one iteration because I'm only hitting the dummy once for 5 minutes, right? Just for interest of time. That's how that works. But keep that in mind that this number is generally something you want to aim for this exact setup. Obviously, I don't have a 619 transmitter, so I'm right here at 878.6, or I guess 885 because of the talents. Because I guess I was an AoE setup when I got my SimC. And so we're going to aim for 885. We're probably not going to hit that. We're probably going to make some mistakes because we're human. All right, it happens. We're not robots. We're not going to be perfect every single time. We can try our best, but it's not always going to be perfect. There's also, again, this is averaged out over a bunch of different iterations. We're going to hit the dummy once. So it's possible that we get insane lucky RNG and we go a lot higher. Maybe not a lot, but we go higher. Or we get awful RNG and we go a lot lower. Okay, it's absolutely possible to go either way. We're only doing one iteration, so it's going to be, it could be in a large range. So just keep that in mind. Let's go in game. All right. So right here, I've got Flurry Strikes to track. This is for Shadow Pan. Let's go over talents. Shadow Pan versus Conduit. Generally speaking, you're just going to be playing Shadow Pan. It's going to be exactly the setup for all content. It does not change. There is merit to Conduit. If you have Transmitter, it is roughly 1% behind Shadow Pan in single target, and maybe 3 to 5% if you don't have Transmitter, and usually about 3 to 5% behind an AoE regardless, if not a little bit more. It's not very important because you're not really going to be playing it right now. It'll probably change later on, but not for right now. It's not very important. But I will go over how to play Conduit at the end. But what Conduit does is it's a 1.5 minute burst damage profile, which is very good on certain fights. Certain fights are going to absolutely prioritize that over Shadow Pan, which is just a more sustained damage profile. You're not really going to have very, very high peaks, but you're not really going to have real low valleys. So it's just constant sustained damage. It's pretty good. Whenever Conduit is, you're still going to have pretty okay sustained damage because you're still Windwalker, and that's what Windwalker is doing right now. But because of Conduit, you're going to have a bit higher highs, and because of that, you're going to have a little bit lower valleys, which is fine. If that's a damage profile that suits a fight, you're going to use that. It is very important to know that. Let's see. So, but again, we're mostly playing Shadow Pan. Everything over here almost does not matter. So you got this, you got that, and you got that. I think those are actually that and that are like the only things that matter for your damage at all. I would recommend playing, diffuse over Yulons, but that's personal preference. If you're not going to be pressing diffuse, you're probably going to get more value out of Yulons because it's just passive. You cannot fuck it up. But if you're bad at pressing your defensives and you don't press diffuse, you're not going to get any of the value that diffuse has over Yulons. So it's important to remember that. If you know you're not going to press your defensive, just run the passive option. But if you have a brain and you will press your defensive whenever damage is coming out, you would get more value out of diffuse. Diffuse can also reflect some magic debuffs, which can do damage. Usually, this is not super impactful in raid, although in raid it can remove debuffs every once in a while, magical debuffs, which is very important. Magic debuffs, they're all different types of schools. There's curses and disease. It only does magic. But it can remove those, and in some situations it can reflect those. It's a white list of certain abilities. I don't know what they are right now, but usually it's more important in dungeons that it can reflect some things and do damage. Okay, you also have Fort Brew as your other defensive. That's, there's another defensive to press. It makes you take less damage. Please use it. Defensives are important. Your healer's going to like you a lot more if you press defensives than if you don't and you die with them up without pressing them. Okay, so please press your defensives. We are a lot squishier now that we lost the defensive. We lost dampen harm in this expansion. We also don't run a lot of haste, or we run a lot of haste. We don't run a lot of versatility because haste got a lot more stat scaling to go with it. So everything else scales with haste now. Not everything, but a lot of things scale with haste now. So you actually want haste, and you don't care that much about versatility in comparison to before. So you have a lot less versatility. You're taking a lot more damage. Just keep that in mind. You are a lot squishier than previous iterations of Windwalker. This lets you hit Touch of Death below 15% health on an enemy. You want this. Just press it when it's up. Okay, you're not gaining that much by trying to snipe the last sliver of health to get the full execute. This already does about 50% of your health. It says 35, but it's also affected by mastery. I think it's also affected by versatility. I don't know exactly, but it's roughly 50% of your health after your mastery buff. But then you also have this talent that just makes you do 5% more damage for the next 30 seconds after pressing it. Just press it at 15. If you sit there and wait to snipe at the last second, you're missing out on this buff. But you're also, it's a fairly finicky trigger to press Touch of Death and have it be available to press or execute. So you're better off just pressing at 15, because it's very possible that you just miss the trigger and you just lose the cast altogether. So it's seriously just better to press it at 15. This just means you do a little bit more damage, and this is Rising Sun Kick just to get the ability, which is required. You cannot not have that. This just makes it do a little more damage. You're always going to have this, so it's not really important to think about. Everything else is personal preference. I guess Chi Wave. Right now, Chi Burst actually does damage, so it is worth pressing if you take it. It's a proc now. It's not it used to be a 30-second cooldown. Now it's a proc. It can stack to 2. It's still a cast time. You can only press it when it's procced, okay? And when it's procced, you press it, and you shoot out your Chi Burst. It does not generate Chi anymore, but it does damage. It used to do damage, but it didn't do any meaningful damage. Now it does actual amounts of damage. It is worth pressing rather than just being pressed for the Chi. But right now, we don't really have the globals to press it. So we choose to just take Chi Wave instead, because it's completely passive and you don't have to think about it at all. You don't have to press anything. You don't lose anything else. So you just take Chi Wave. That's it. Everything else here is kind of just personal preference, or like this. This is like defensive or movement. So I'm not going to go over that. It doesn't really matter. Just take what's on peak, and if something is in there you don't like, change it. Okay, everything here is fine. Those are the only nodes that really matter, and you're always going to have those. This really doesn't change between your builds at all. So we're going to go over to Windwalker, the spec tree. Now, it's pretty much going to be the same tree for almost all situations. Right now I'm an AoE. This is going to be basically any single encounter or dungeon that ever has more than one mob that you actually want to hit the other mobs, okay? You're taking this because it makes your spinning crane kick do more damage. It actually does damage right now. This is just some more damage when you press spinning crane kick. You're not really thinking about this. This is mostly just passively done, okay? You're not sitting there holding spinning crane kick until it gets to 30 stacks. You just pretend it's not there, okay? It's not that important. It's just there. It does a little more damage sometimes. That's it. This is a proc on Dance of Chi-Ji. And you'll see what all this looks like when we actually play. Okay, but we're going over everything else before we play. We gotta do our research before we play, okay? There's gonna be a proc. Whenever it procs, you just press spinning crane kick. It doesn't make spinning crane kick #1 priority over everything in every situation. But you want to press this before the proc runs out, and it just does more damage. That's it. It doesn't cost anything. No chi. You just press it. It does more damage, okay? This is Rushing Jade Wind. This really helps you with the AoE because it's really not the Rushing Jade Wind part. It's the Strike of the Windlord part because it makes Strike of the Windlord apply Mark of the Crane. So when Mark of the Crane is applied, you can have 5 stacks, and it makes your spinning crane kick do, I think, I don't know the exact percent, hide passives. Let me find the exact percent for you. It doesn't really matter, but yeah, I don't see it. It's probably under spinning crane kick, where that is. Yeah, 18%. It's 18% per stack. Okay, so every stack of Mark of the Crane is 18%. Now the way Mark of the Crane works is a debuff on enemies. It persists after they die. So if an enemy dies with it, you don't lose the stack. The stacks are tracked on spinning crane kick, but they are displayed as debuffs on enemies. They last for 20 seconds. Again, if they die, it stays for the remainder of the duration. It does not refresh. You refresh it by Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, or Tiger Palm. Or if you have Rushing Jade Wind, and those also apply it to enemies that don't have it. If you have Rushing Jade Wind, Strike of the Windlord also applies it. Strike of the Windlord is the only way to apply it to AoE without changing your target. So keep that in mind. The only other way is with your cooldown Storm, Earth, and Fire, because they will jump to different targets and they will apply it for you. They will make sure you always have, they are always trying to get you to 5. And I think they have an algorithm to reapply it when stacks get low, or like duration runs low. I don't know that off the top of my head, what exactly the duration is before they jump back to a previous target. But they are going to be jumping to targets that don't have it until you have 5, and then they'll kind of stick to those targets. Is how they work for applying that to AoE. So if you're going to single target, really these are the only 2 talents that change, generally speaking. And also those three. So I'm going to swap to single target. Again, I'm using that new build that I guess somebody just found and simmed the other day, and it happens to sim better for me as well. What this build does is it drops Courageous Impulse and Dance of Chi-Ji. I guess there's just less damage in Dance of Chi-Ji right now. I don't really know the ins and outs of that because this was just brought to my attention last night. Okay. Courageous Impulse, this was really just path to get to Dance of Chi-Ji, because Blackout Kick kind of sucks right now. You don't really care that much about it. You do press it, but it doesn't do that much damage. But you drop those 2 points. This is kind of the only other point you could put something into. So this is what currently sims the best in single target. You would only take this in pure single target with 1 target. If there's ever more than 1 target, you're going to want Dance of Chi-Ji. So even just running those 2 talents for the previous single target build, That's going to be better if there's ever more than one target. Okay? But if it's only one target, and to iterate on that, that's if there's ever more than one target that you actually want to kill. Like on let's see, like on Ration Ad. Those ads melt instantly. Okay? You don't really have to swap to those to kill them. They just die. So you don't really need to swap to Dance with Chi-Chi for that. Unless you're just trying to parse. But those got taken off Warcraft logs, so that's not really a thing. You don't have to care about that. So basically everything else is a lock. You'll change this between AoE and single target. That's about it. Everything else is about the same. Alright. So let's talk about Flurry Strikes before we play. And then after that we should be good to start playing. And we can talk about playing as we play. Flurry Strikes, you can track these to so that you know. Sorry, I'm trying to do this all in one take, so this is a little scatterbrained, and it's very apparent throughout. So I'm sorry about that. But Flurry Strikes, you can track these, so you can see how much energy you have left to discharge your Flurry Strikes. You're almost always going to have 10 Flurry Strikes. If you don't have 10 stacks of Flurry Strikes when it goes off, you did something wrong. Because you should have 10 stacks way before it discharges, because they generate so much faster than they'll discharge. It is a slightly just poor design how that works, but that is how it works. So it's almost impossible to have to have less than 10 stacks unless it was done intentionally. And there is a reason for that. We'll go over that at the end because it's really not that big. But at the very end, I'll go over that, and that's something that people have asked a lot of questions about in the Windwalker Discord. But you might want to track Flurry Strikes to see, oh hey, my next Tiger Palm is going to trigger Flurry Strikes, but I know the boss is just about to run away from me. And first of all, if your target is out of range whenever Flurry Strikes goes off, it does not hit it. If they move out of range while it's going off, it goes off over about 1.5 seconds. It is not a channel. You can attack during the animation. It does not change anything. It just does not happen instantly, but it is just an animation, okay? So if they move away during that animation, it does cancel your Flurry Strikes. So keep that in mind. If they go immune, obviously it's not going to do damage. You probably don't want to discharge Flurry Strikes on an immune target. So, probably don't do that. If you have this weak aura, you can track it. You can see, oh, my next Tiger Palm is going to trigger Flurry Strikes, and that boss just went immune. I should probably not hit Tiger Palm. That's it. Now, 90% of the time, this is kind of irrelevant information. You don't need to know this. It's not that big. If you lose one Flurry Strike discharge over the course of a fight, you're gonna be okay. Okay, it's going to be fine. This is something to track if you want to min-max everything. Okay, This is not min-max to the nth degree. We'll go over that at the end. That's something else. But this is min-maxing your shit. You do not have to do this. This is not something you have to track, or you're not playing the class, okay? It is not that big. I would recommend tracking it just in case, okay? Just so you know, oh, hey, at this time in the fight, I know the boss goes immune, and it happens to line up right with a Flurry Strikes discharge. So I probably want to do something to avoid discharging it right as the boss goes immune. That would be smart. That's what I recommend you doing. Let's see. And I'll show you what the weak aura looks like when we go to play. So let's go over our opener. Before we go hit, because everybody else is over there, things might get lost in animations right now. What you're going to do is you're going to hit Tiger, and I'll have all my actions are going to be up here so you can see them. But you're going to hit Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Xuen, and then Storm Earth and Fire with Rising Sun Kick at the same time. Rising Sun Kick resets whenever your Storm Earth and Fire is activated. So there's no cooldown on it whenever you press Storm Earth and Fire. It removes any remaining cooldown, and its off cooldown is available to use, okay? And Storm Earth and Fire is not on the global cooldown. Also, we have this talent now that makes your... This is what resets the... is it? I think it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. I wasn't sure if that was part of just base Storm Earth and Fire now or not, but... whenever you press this, you immediately get 2 chi whenever you press Storm Earth and Fire. It also resets your cooldown on Rising Sun Kick. But it also means whenever you Rising Sun Kick during Storm Earth and Fire, you get a 7-second buff that reduces all your chi costs by 1 second. Or by 1 chi. And it also means Blackout Kick reduces cooldowns by an additional second. That's not really that important. You just, you just press your shit when it's on cooldown, and you press Blackout Kick as a filler ability. It is during this buff, it costs nothing, so it's free. You just press it in between other buttons whenever it will not impact your other buttons. Your other buttons are way, 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 way more important, so make sure you press them first. Outside of cooldowns, you press your Blackout Kick only to manage your chi, or if you have a proc. You don't want to overcap chi. There are very few situations where you don't care about overcapping chi. Usually that's during cooldowns. There's also a buff from Wisdom of the Wall called Shadow Flurries, that bottom one, where you kind of want to press Tiger Palm, and it's really important. Sorry, I'm knocking my mic. You don't want to overcap your energy. So that's more important than overcapping your chi. So if the situation arises where the question is, do I overcap my energy or do I overcap my chi? The answer is overcap your chi. Most times. Keep that in mind. That's not really super prevalent in single target outside of your cooldowns. It does come up occasionally though, so keep it in mind. We're going to hit, so we're going to go Xuen, Tiger Palm, RSK, Tiger Palm, Storm Earth and Fire, RSK. I should have pressed Strike of the Windlord, but it's okay. Whirling Dragon Punch, Strike of the Windlord. I'm going to get my orb. That was really late. Messed me up, but see, this is what you do. You do not ever cancel Fist of Fury. Alright? This was a little bit scuffed. We'll go over it again. Alright? So, you see Storm Earth and Fire has charges. So you're going to use the second charge unless something lines up better in a fight, which there are definitely fights where it does. You'll do it whenever Rising Sun Kick is on cooldown and Storm Earth and Fire is off cooldown. You don't want to sit on, Strike of the Windlord. You don't want to sit on Strike of the Windlord's cooldown for a long time, but it's okay to sit on it for a second or two for everything else to line up for your cooldowns. But this is how you do it. Alright, and we're going to go for 5 minutes. So you see this one right here, this is a hit combo. This is really important. This does, you just do like 6 or 5% more damage now because it got nerfed. But you just do 5% more damage. This is the core mechanic of Windwalker. You don't press the same ability twice in a row. That's it. Literally nothing else special about it. You just don't press the same button twice in a row. You press all your cooldowns that have a cooldown, all your abilities that have a cooldown on cooldown, as close to on cooldown as you can. See, I don't have chi for those two buttons whenever they came up, so I couldn't press it immediately. I also probably shouldn't have pressed that. I'm making mistakes right here for point of concept. So now I've had Fist of Fury off cooldown for like 10 seconds. That's bad. I shouldn't have done that. I've also got Xuen up. So I'm going to let that sit and go like that. Okay? And now I got jump for my quest. So that's fine. Most of the trinkets you're going to use that are stats that are like unused trinkets, you're going to use with Storm, Earth, and Fire after you've pressed Xuen. You're going to use them with Xuen. Most of them are 2 minute or 1 minute 30. This one is 1 minute 30. Treacherous Transmitter. You're just going to press it with Xuen. You do not press it on 1 minute 30. Unless you're just going to miss a cast at the end of a fight. Like the very end of a fight and you're not going to get Xuen. Yeah, just press it on cooldown. It's fine. So again, here, I'm going to use my second Storm, Earth, and Fire with Strike of the Windlord. And normally if this was a fight, you would press Touch of Death. We're not going to do that because it's a dummy. Okay, I don't want to press it on the dummy. And again, this is not perfect play. We're making mistakes just to kind of show them off. Speaking of, let's say, oh shit, I hit Blackout Kick twice in a row. Okay, so what that does is it resets your hit combo. We just had 5 stacks and we went down to 0. We had to build them back up. It's not the end of the world. You don't want to do that. You lose damage, but it's not like, oh my god, I lost my hit combo. I might as well jump in the fire and die. I hope we reset. It's not that big. Like, yes, you don't want to do it because it's free damage, and it's free damage you'll lose. But at the same time, it's fine. Now, also, this is a 5 minute. We're doing 5 minutes, so I know exactly how many casts of each spell I'm going to get for my cooldowns. I'm going to get 2 Xuens, or 3 Xuens, and 5 Storm, Earth, and Fires. So we're going to go there, and like that. Okay, and my orb's right over here. I saw it in the corner. I'm going to go try and get it. I think I missed it and went up over the z-axis of this shit. Yeah, see, there it is. I'm not going to worry about it right now because we're just doing a dummy test, but yeah, see, it's already gone. That's the bad thing about this trinket is that can happen and you just lose your buff. Yeah, I could have went and got it. I'm not worried about it just because this is a video. And this video is not about that trinket, right? So right now I'm about 100k under the sim because of these mistakes I've made. Right, so that was 5 minutes. We run away, and like I said, yeah, right about 100k under the sim. Let's see. Yeah, we were like at 885, and we were at wrong thing. We're at 787, so we're 100k under. If we didn't make those mistakes, we probably would have been at about 850 if I had to guess. That's just in my head, random number, guess. Very important word there. Yeah, so let's see. What did I absolutely glossed over some things. So this is single target, by the way. Obviously, we have one target. Let's talk about a change that happened from Dragonflight. You can no longer cast during your spinning crane kick. If you do, it's going to interrupt it. We don't want to interrupt it. So, like here. This is not a button. This is a weak word. Everything else is a button. But if I press that, I interrupted it. I lost about 1 hit of it or so. You don't want to do that. So how do I make sure I don't do that by accident? You make macros like this, where it's channeling. You stop macro, channeling, crackling jade, lightning. You don't want to interrupt that. If you want to interrupt that, you just move. So you don't want to interrupt that with your buttons by accident. Same thing with Fist of Fury. You do not clip Fist of Fury ever. So you just put this in all your abilities, make a macro for all your abilities. You cannot interrupt it unless you hit escape. That's the only way you can interrupt it, and you don't want to do that. Now, I would recommend leaving your kick and your stun and your defensives up so that they don't have this macro, so that way if you ever interrupt in a perfect vacuum, you're never going to interrupt Fist of Fury. That's more accurate. You would interrupt it to kick something that needs to be kicked, or you will wipe. you are the worst kick in a dungeon if you are casting Fist of Fury. This does not mean just let people get nuked because you're casting. But this means that if somebody else has their kick up, they should be a higher priority than you. This does not mean go be an asshole about that. If other people are just not kicking, because look, I'm in pugs too. Some of these people, they don't have that shit bound. They don't have it talented. They do not care. You're not going to win an argument to them telling them to kick. You are better off just kicking and do not care if it loses damage. Okay? Don't be an asshole about that. But you are probably the worst kick whenever you are casting Fist of Fury, because that is your main damage in AoE, or second main damage. Kinda, sorta. So you don't want to interrupt it with a kick if somebody else could kick without you interrupting it. Spinning crane kick, same thing. It's a lot less impactful to interrupt spinning crane kick than it is Fist of Fury, but you also still don't want to interrupt it. So just put this in your macros, and you don't. This will be in the description. Same thing with anything else will be in the description that I think is necessary for you to have. I would recommend a macro sort of like this. We don't need this line anymore. So that's unnecessary. But this is a spinning crane kick macro. I have a pet conditional for my trinket. This is not optimal. This is not ideal. But this is a very easy, brain off way to manage this on your on-use trinkets. Because generally speaking, you're going to want to use them with Storm, Earth, and Fire. Well, not with Storm, Earth, and Fire, but the ability you cast with Storm, Earth, and Fire, which is Rising Sun Kick. I recommend having this because that should almost always be your first ability in Storm, Earth, and Fire. When you cast Storm, Earth, and Fire, it's off global cooldown, so you can press something at the same time as it. It also means you could press it early, and you would lose half a global of your Storm, Earth, and Fire to nothing, to just not pressing. You want to make sure you're off global cooldown when you press it, so that you can press something at the same time. That's really important. Keep in mind, Xuen is on the global cooldown. You do not want to macro it to that. You do not want to macro Storm, Earth, and Fire to Xuen. You will lose a second of Storm, Earth, and Fire to nothing, and you don't want to do that. That is just throwing away damage. Don't do that. Okay, that's bad. This is also probably not super insanely ideal in every single situation, but in single target, this is absolutely fine. You're going to want to always start your Storm, Earth, and Fire with this because it resets the cooldown of Rising Sun Kick, okay? Also, I'm an orc, so I put my orc racial here with the same thing as the trinket. Again, I recommend having your trinket on its own bind. For me, I have it right here. So I can press it without pressing Storm, Earth, and Fire without a pet. But generally speaking, this is fine. This is not ideal, but it's not egregious. It is fine. Keep that in mind. This will not be in the description because I don't want to spread that because it's not ideal. It is fine. That is a crutch that I have played with forever, and it is fine. Fine. It is not egregious. It is not ideal either, though. Let's see for Xuen. I don't think there's anything to macro into Xuen anymore. Yeah, there's nothing. Because we don't have Weapons of Order. Or the statue. So, that's the majority of that. Let's go. So, we're going to do AoE next. But first, we're going to go over the advanced thing that we were talking about with Flurry Strikes earlier. So, right now, I'm logging out. Excuse me. I'm logging out to reset Flurry Strikes. Flurry Strikes resets on 3 things. Logging out, changing your spec, so going to Brewmaster or Mistweaver, and then back to Windwalker. Excuse me, I'm getting the hiccups. Are going to reset your Flurry Strikes. Okay? Now, there's the easiest way to that is just logging out and logging back in. It's fairly quick. If you have an SSD, it'll load fairly quickly. And it's also I have to press the least amount of buttons to do it. So that's why I did that. The other thing that resets it is Mythic Plus starting. Now there's a very advanced thing you can do with Flurry Strikes for a small gain. What you can do is you can do a full channel of Crackling Jade Lightning for 100 energy. And a second full channel. It does not matter that this breaks combo strikes, because this is not important for that. Now what you do is you come over and you hit it. You just auto attack. You don't press any of your buttons. Okay? Don't press buttons. What the goal is here is we're generating Flurry Strikes charges. So right now you can see in the weak aura we have 1. And it has a duration on there. You're never going to run that out in combat, so it's not important. The bottom number is the energy you currently have spent. Flurry Strikes discharges at 300 energy, so whenever I cast Crackling Jade Lightning again, it will discharge. Or if I press Tiger Palm twice, it will discharge. Okay? So what the goal is right now is we're going to get to 9 Flurry Strikes, and then we're going to stop attacking. And we're going to discharge our Flurry Strikes. What this does is it means our next... So Wisdom of the Wall, the way that works, is it procs on your 10th Flurry Strikes hit. But we can make our 10th Flurry Strikes hit our first Flurry Strikes hit and the second discharge after this. Now, this is the thing you would set up once per login or per spec change or per dungeon. So if I'm going to raid, I could set this up before we enter the raid. And then this is set up for the entire raid unless I swap to Brewmaster or something. Okay, which is not something I'm really going to do. We're at 8 stacks now. So I'm going to back up whenever I get to 9. Well, I'm going to stop attacking anyway. So now I'm going to do a full cast of Crackling Jade Lightning. Okay, so it's, there we go. We proc Flurry Strikes. But we only procced 9 stacks of Flurry Strikes. So what that means is the next time, so what this does, by the way, is this bottom Flurry Strikes deals shadow damage to uncontrolled enemies. What this does is get you an extra 9 hits of that per Flurry Strike. You know, because that's per Flurry Strike charge. Gets you an extra 9 hits of that when that procs. You will get about 1 to 2% more damage in single target, and it's harder to math out for AoE. This is a very small gain. This is a free gain that you can get, but keep in mind 2% is pretty small. In a best case scenario, 2% is fairly small. It is free damage that you can pick up for doing an extra, I don't know, minute or 2 of work before your raid. So sure, go ahead and do it. This will probably be fixed later. More than likely, everything regarding Flurry Strikes will reset on boss pull. That is what the expected behavior should be. It is very likely that will be changed soon. TM. Maybe that's 11.1, maybe that's 11.0.5, maybe that's changed next expansion. I don't know. Nobody knows. We're not Blizzard, but I would expect that to be changed. This is a little bit degenerate to have to do. That said, you only do it once per login or per spec change or per dungeon. This would be a larger gain in dungeons if this is something you want to do. But it's also not really that big in dungeons because you're losing damage to set it up. Because you'll have to set it up in your dungeon live after the timer has started on an actual pack. So you'll be sitting there doing no damage to a pack while everybody else is killing it. So that kind of sucks. There's also one other method to do this, and it is... I'm not going to go over it because it is dumb. It is stupid. And it's going to confuse people. So don't worry about that. I should have mentioned it. Alright. So that's set up right now. And again, that only really affects the shadow wall buff. If you don't get that, then it doesn't do anything until you get that buff. The way that buff works is a deck of cards. It has 4 buffs right here, 4 cards. You get 1 card that's taken out of the deck, you get the buff, and you get the other 3 buffs before you get that first buff again. They are shuffled on each cycle, so every 4 cards it gets shuffled, which way you're going to get them. There's no way to tell what the first card you're going to get is, but you always know what the last card is if you track it. It is trackable. There's a weak aura for it. I'm not tracking it. I should have got the weak aura before I did this video, but that's okay. It's not that important. Just know that you can track it, and you can know what the last buff you're going to get of each cycle is. And you can progressively get a chance to know what buffs are left in the pool, which is somewhat useful information if that's something you really care about. But to me, it's not very useful. I'm not really going to change the way I play that much regarding on what buff I can get. The only buff that ever changes how you play is the shadow buff. And during that, you just prioritize not overcapping energy a little bit more than you already do. But you already prioritize not overcapping energy. So it's not that big of a gameplay shift. So it's not really that big. So we're going to go into AoE. Nope, a Conduit. My bad. Shadow Pan AoE. So we're going to go Xuen, Tiger Palm, RSK. Okay, we got a circle for transmitter. And boom. I mean, it is this simple. I mean, I can't really talk that much while I play. It's just me. I'm bad at that. But like you can see every ability I'm pressing. It is incredibly simple. You also really do want to prioritize your Fist of Fury. You're really only pressing Rising Sun Kick because it can give you CDR on Fist of Fury. And also it gives you the buff in Storm and Fire. Now see, whenever my stacks drop, I want to change my targets so I can get them back. See, I fucked up there. I should have started with Fist of Fury there. But it's okay. We make mistakes. It happens. And, it's basically just this until the pack dies. Every pack. Usually what you're going to do is you're going to do Xuen on one pack, and then with Storm, Earth, and Fire, and then you'll do Storm, Earth, and Fire on the next pack, and you'll do that unless you're not going to have Storm, Earth, and Fire for the Xuen. For the next Xuen. You always want to have Storm, Earth, and Fire available for your Xuen, an AoE or single target. But yeah, you also might hold things or not, depending on a boss coming up. That's going to be dependent on each dungeon. All right. So I think that's most everything that I had on the list. Let's go over crafted gear. Crafted gear. The answer is going to be a one-handed agility weapon with ascendance. You're also going to want any other off piece, so your belt, your cloak, your bracers, possibly even your boots. Your best slot is going to be cloak or bracers or belt. Belt and bracers are equal, I think. Pretty sure. That's 2172. Okay, no. Okay, so it's cloak and bracers that are equal, not belt and bracers. So cloak and bracers are equal. Those are interchangeable pieces. They're off pieces. You're going to want to put your second embellishment on those. Your crafted gear can only go to 636. Everything else that you can get as a drop from Mythic Raid or from the Mythic Track Vault is going to be 639 at the end game. right? We're preparing for end game. We're not preparing for right this second. There are situations you do want to prepare for right this second, but I really, when it's coming to this gearing thing, we're talking about end game. End game, you're going to want a one-hand agility weapon with Ascendance as your embellishment. The other embellishment you're going to want is Writhing Armor Band, is what it's called. It just doubles all your Nerubian embellishments. This is all the embellishments kind of suck, so this is your best one. This is also a weapon. That's a huge item to have early. So that's why that's my first 636 crafted item. This is from the heroic crest from killing Ensrek. It does not matter. This is from PvP. This is not worth getting anymore, but it was when I got it. And I have no reason, I haven't gotten another belt to change it out for, so it doesn't matter yet. But whenever I do get another belt, I will put this onto my cloak, and my cloak will go to 636 at some point. Anything past those embellishments, you're going to want those embellishments on probably those slots. But again, if you have a really, really good cloak, maybe you already have the Rashnan cloak. That's not the best cloak, but it is a really nice cloak with haste. It has a cantrip on it that just lets you survive a little bit more. That's really nice. It's a really nice quality of life cloak. It's one to get. It's not one that's going to be best in slot. Best in slot is going to be crafted cloak with an embellishment. But it is a really good cloak. Let's say you already have that cloak, so you don't want to craft a cloak because you already have a good one, right? You craft bracers. Those are your two best options for crafting for the embellishment. Now, after that, you kind of just craft what's your worst piece. So for me, I might craft a helmet because my helmet sucks. I have a verse crit helmet and it's only 606. So I might craft a helmet. You know, if I want to craft another piece this week, I probably don't. I have no idea yet. I haven't thought that far. It doesn't matter. So I might craft a helmet, or I might craft a necklace. I'm not going to craft a necklace because a raid necklace is way, way, way better than a crafted one. So I'm going to craft a helmet, maybe boots, and those are really the only items I would consider crafting. Maybe a belt if I just can't find a belt. Okay, and past that, sparks are useless. I don't need it anymore. Because, you know, these are always going to be tier. These are the best tier slots. You could kind of trade out chest for helmet. I think they're both the same stats. Neither of them have haste. So they're the worst slot. The worst statted tier piece. You do want 4-piece. It's a small gain. It's a pretty boring tier set. I haven't gone over it because you just ignore it. You play like it's not there. If you try to game it, you are just losing damage. Same thing. I didn't go over this before because it's the same thing. Transfer the power. You play like this does not exist. Dual threat. You play like this does not exist. Acclamation. You play like this does not exist. You're pressing Rising Sun Kick on cooldown anyway. Okay, so you don't need to play around that because it's already played around. Dual threat. You cannot predict this. You just sometimes do 5% more damage on this procs, okay? Your Fist of Fury just almost always has 10 stacks, and you almost always do more damage with it. Okay? You don't play around it, it's just there. I track it on here just because it looks pretty, and that's it. You don't need to play around it ever at all. Okay? Let's see. So you're always going to have those slots. Always. This is going to be the raid necklace, ideally, because there's an insane amount of haste. And it also has a proc that just helps your healers have mana, so that's nice, too. It also gives you a little bit of versatility when it procs, which is also nice for you and them. But you're mostly using it just because it has an insane amount of haste. I'm going over best in slot for the profile. Sim yourself for your best items that you have. Okay? Sim yourself. You are not aiming for best of slot items at every single second. Best in slot is kind of a concept. There is a profile that has access to every gear piece, and it has a best in slot. You are going to make that profile for your character when you sim yourself to see what your best in slot items are in your bags. That is more important. Best in slot is like, okay, my trinkets are the best I can get. I want to get them at higher item levels, so I do it at higher difficulties. Or my necklace is the raid necklace. That's the best in slot. I want that. I aim for that. That does not mean you cannot play without it. That does not mean that there are not other options that are good. Just because something is not the absolute best item you can get does not make it useless. Okay? Keep that in mind. Like, I don't have the raid weapon. I want the raid weapon because it makes a 2-set with this. It's also got, I think it has haste. I don't know. I don't remember. Well, does it have haste? I think it has haste. No, it has crit. Okay, whatever. But it's a weapon. It has a cantrip on it, and it interacts with my trinket. So it's just more damage than the next best weapon. So I want that. That does not make this weapon awful. Okay? This weapon is fine. I could upgrade this right now. I'm not going to, because it's not that big of a gain to me. I'd rather wait for the raid weapon because it'll drop at a much higher item level. I'll save a bunch of crests. That doesn't matter. That does not make this trash. This is not complete garbage. It will be after I get the raid weapon, but before I get the raid weapon, this is the best item I got. I'm not, it's just like that. You're going to want to play dual wield, so 2 one-handers over a 2-hander. There may be, if you have low item level weapons and you get a 2-hander that's a much higher upgrade, much higher item level, it might be an upgrade for you. You have to sim to get the answer to that. Please don't come into the Discord to ask questions about that when the answer is to sim it. Okay? That's the answer you're going to get. They're going to tell you to sim it. Because that's the only way to get the answer. Because it depends on what else you have. But let's go over why one-handers are better. It's because of this talent right here. You just attack. This has a 20% chance per auto attack to just do a little more damage and increase your damage by 5%. Okay? You attack more with one-handers than you do with two-handers. It's just that simple. That's it. Also, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button. You also get 2 enchants, which is very good. Okay, this enchant just does raw damage. So it's very good to have 2 of it versus 2 stat procs. 2 stat procs, what they do is they just, if you have 2 of the same stat enchant and it's a proc, you just get double the stats on it, which is good. That's what we did all throughout, almost all throughout Dragonflight. But at a certain point, this might not be the case this expansion because of dual threat, but at a certain point, two-hander usually does overtake one-handers. But right now, that's not a factor. One-handers are going to be better. That does not mean, oh, I have item level 600 one-handers, and I just got a 623 two-hander. First of all, sim it. But the answer is going to be probably use the two-hander because it's a huge upgrade for you. Okay? But sim it. Sim it is going to get you the real answer. I'm only speculating when I tell you it's probably going to be the two-hander in that situation. Sim it. You've got to sim it. That's why my screen says sim yourself. That's why I started the video saying how to sim yourself. Okay? It's that easy. Okay. I'll go over Conduit here in a second. I've really rambled on about gear because it's really important that you know to sim yourself. Let's quickly talk about Broodtwister. I'm not playing Broodtwister yet. My guild is not there. But when you get to Broodtwister, there's an insane amount of ads. You do not do a lot of damage to an insane amount of ads. Okay? We do a lot of damage to small packs of ads on burst. We have burst, but it's set up burst. It's not like a Fury Warrior where they press like 2 buttons and they do 3 billion damage. Okay? We have to press a little bit more and it takes a little bit more to set up. Okay? So we're not really great at doing the damage onto the Broodtwister ads, okay? When you're on Broodtwister, your job is to press boss damage buttons. You are trying to kill the boss. This does not mean play the pure single target build, because you do want to passively cleave on the ads, and you do want to build up your Mark of the Crane stacks if they're up and they're available, the ads around you, which they probably will be, just so you are just doing free extra damage to them. But your main job in that fight is going to be boss damage. You want to do damage to the boss. Right now, historically, Windwalker has been a much better spec for AoE than it has been for single target. This is the first time in a long time that, as far as I can remember, that Windwalker is better in single target than it is in AoE. Okay, it's a bit of a weird thing to get used to, but that's how it is right now. So on Broodtwister, you do boss damage. All right, let's go over Conduit. Oh, I'm not changing that. I just changed this. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. Okay, right. This is still a bit of a pain. All right, there it is. All right, Conduit. This is, yeah, right. Cool. All right. It's not even on my bars. That's because it's okay. Well, that's cool. Why is that detox? Not pull detox. Right, whatever. So we get to wait a minute. So I'm gonna ramble on because I accidentally pressed the button when I put it on my bars. So that's really cool. But basically, what you're gonna do is you're gonna go up to the mob. You're gonna hit, Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Tiger Palm, Xuen, Conduit, and then continue on with your normal rotation. The only thing else that changes is right here, Heart of the Jade Serpent. This is the only other real gameplay interaction you have with Conduit. And again, you do hold. So with Conduit, you take Xuen's bond. So Xuen is a 1.5 minute cooldown. You only press Conduit with Xuen every single time. And it should line up just about right with Xuen's bond. And I'm not simming this. I don't know exactly how much damage it should be doing, but it should be about 1% behind for the Shadow Pen. So I don't know, like 870k, something like that. I don't fucking know. I'm not doing the math. I'm not good at quick math with the percent, so it doesn't matter. But Heart of the Jade Serpent, every 45 chi. I don't think I have a weak order to track this right now because we haven't played Conduit yet. There's not been a reason to. There could be merit for it on like Silken or one other fight this raid. But for right now, we haven't played it. We don't have plans to play it, concrete plans to play it this tier. And that may change next year or not. I don't know. But what this does, every 45 chi causes your next Strike of the Windlord to call upon Yulon to increase the cooldown time of Rising Sun Kick, Fist of Fury, Strike of the Windlord, and Whirling Dragon Punch by 75% for 8 seconds. It also reduces the channel time of Fist of Fury by 50%. So basically, it really, really, really speeds up your cooldowns, but it does not reduce any chi cost. It does not help you at all with resources. You will probably feel resource flooded, or resource drought whenever this comes up if you do not prepare for it correctly. All right. Now, I haven't really played this very much since beta, so I'm probably going to play it poorly, and I'll be able to tell you what I do poorly. Hopefully. Hopefully. So, we're going to do Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Xuen, Conduit. I lied. We actually want to do Conduit inside of Storm, Earth, and Fire, because it also gets buffed by Storm, Earth, and Fire. But that's something I messed up. I forgot about. That's from beta. Like I said, we haven't played this since beta. Now, let's see. You have a lot more resources during Conduit than you do with Shadow Pen. Let's see. Right now, I'm at 40 stacks of Heart of the Jade Serpent. So my Strike of the Windlord is now at 45 stacks. So it's going to proc next time. See, I should have held it because it's now I'm overcapping on those stacks for no reason. Actually, no, I'm not, because it actually resets before you press it. Okay, never mind. Like I said, we haven't played this since beta, so it's not super fresh in anybody's mind. Now, Heart of the Jade Serpent is active. You can see everything has a reduced cooldown. Spinning, hang on. Okay, we're gonna go Xuen. All right. All right. Now it's active. And see, I'm so focused on this because they're very, very not fresh in my mind. And I didn't even get my trinket buff. So my trinket did nothing. I will touch on that in just a second. That's something I did forget about. But yeah. It's basically the same, except you have Heart of the Jade Serpent and you press Celestial Conduit during Xuen, during Serenth and Fire. Alright. Let's go over the trinket thing I was talking about. So this is our best in slot trinket, Treacherous Transmitter. It's kind of annoying to play with, as you've seen throughout this video. Whenever we're playing, I had an orb go right here, and then it goes to the top of this pole, or maybe up here, I don't know. And then it comes down, and it's way over here, and I missed it because it was in that corner, and I just barely missed it. Or sometimes it'll do a circle over there, and you're too busy doing something else, thinking about how you play, like that. Like I haven't played Conduit in so long, so I've got to actually think about how to play it. So I missed it because I was thinking about Conduit, not my trinket. It also, in a busy raid environment, is very likely that orb or that circle will be lost. Now, there is theory behind it because it has a set spawn. The circle will always spawn right here, relative to the way your character is facing. It'll be right there, all right? Wherever you're facing, it'll be like right here in this area. The orb will always spawn here, it'll always spawn here and travel that way, and arc like that. Okay, that's how it works. And then jump, you just jump. And there's a weak aura for it. You can find it on Wago. Now, if you just do not want to play that, which is absolutely understandable, it is very annoying sometimes. And if you miss the buff, you have 15 seconds to get the buff. So 15 seconds to get into your circle and stand there for 3 seconds, or 15 seconds to find your orb and collect it, or 15 seconds to jump. If you jump, you just do that while you're playing, and it takes like 3 seconds. It's impossible to fuck that one up. If you track it anyway, or you're looking at your character. But if you just do not want to play that, because that is admittedly very annoying sometimes. If you don't get the buff, you just don't get the buff, and it's on cooldown anyway. So if you just don't want to play with that, there's a trinket from the dungeons, from Grim Batol. Skardyn's Grace. This is the next best thing. It is, it's a 2-minute. It's mastery instead of haste. So Transmitter has haste baseline, which is good. It also has a massive amount of agility, which is very, very good. And it lines up with your cooldowns because you're always going to use it on 2 minutes. Skardyn's Grace is about 1% behind it in a best case scenario. Now, that said, Skardyn's Grace is infinitely easier to use. You just put it into your Storm, Earth, and Fire with the pet conditional, or you press it when you press Xuen, or when you press the next ability after Xuen, right? And you just have more mastery, and it just works like that. And, yeah. So, it's just the next best thing. It's a lot harder to get. You can only get it as a drop at hero track, so it'll go up to 626. You can get it if you want it higher than that. You have to get it from your vault. Good luck. So, you know, with the raid trinket transmitter, it drops in raid from Kaiveza. You could bribe your loot council or something to get it from raid. It's a lot easier to get in raid than it is to get in Mythic Plus Skardens. Okay. The one last thing I need to touch on, this is again a sim question. Stat priorities are outdated. They do not matter. Okay? Do not use stat weights. They are useless. Alright? They are useless. They are changing every single time you get a piece of gear. Okay? So I'm going to swap back to my other set just so I don't forget. But look, generally speaking, you're going to want the most haste. And after that, all three of the other stats are good. No stat is bad for you. All three of the other stats are roughly equal. Okay? I think it's crit, mastery, and then verse in that order. But they are extremely close. They might as well be equal. Okay? If you just want a quick and dirty, what stats do I want? That's it. But if you want an actual answer, a real answer that's going to be accurate, you are going to sim yourself. Sim yourself. That is the answer, okay? I know that's very annoying to hear. Whenever you go in there and you're at work and when you go into the Windwalker Discord, you go into the questions channel, you're at work, you don't have access to the house, you don't have your computer, you don't have your character, you don't have your SimC export, you don't know how to sim, or you know how to sim, you want to go to sim, and there's 16,000 people in front of you because the realms just came up and everybody opened their vault and they're simming for that, okay? I know, it's really annoying. That's not the answer you want to hear, but that's the answer that's true, okay? That's the answer. You have to sim yourself if you want to do the best shit, okay? Ideally, you want to do top gear for every new item you get. You want to do a new sim for every item. Now, you don't have to do every item one at a time. You can do top gear with all the items in your bags. Or you can add items, like say, 4 items dropped from this boss. I can use all 4. We got really lucky. All these items are like maybe good for me. Okay? You can send them all 4 at the same time. You can also use Droptimizer, which is really nice for doing raid drops all at once. Or doing all the Mythic Plus dungeons all at once. You have to have a premium account for that, though. So, sorry. If you don't have a premium account, you got to do each dungeon one by one. Have fun. Stay small. So, yeah. This was really rambly. Sorry about that. I've never done a video. But I want to do something to help people. Hopefully this did. See ya.